The next time you sit in front of your computer to make a new piece of music in a style you have never done before, just because you think it sounds really cool or you have heard that it's very lucrative, I want you to stop yourself, resist the temptation to jump into a new style of music until you understand the intricacies of that genre. Hello rock stars, Matt Vanderbo here, and if you haven't seen it yet, in this previous video I talked about the importance of having an easily identifiable genre to your music every time you sit down to write something, so that when a listener, whether it be a music supervisor or an editor or a music library, when they sit down to listen to it, they should be able to instantly identify your genre of music within about 2 or 3 seconds of pressing the play button. And if you don't understand why that is so critically important, then please go back and watch my earlier video. I'll link it in the description below as well. But in this video, we're going to talk about genre, but we're going to come at it from a different angle. And I'm going to tell you why the best thing you can do for a music career before you start making music in a new genre is to do your homework so that you understand all the intricacies of that genre. So what do I mean when I say you must understand the genre? Well, I'm talking about all of the details that go into making that music what it is. So let's go through a little list of those factors right now, beginning with number 1, which would be the tempo or the BPM of a certain style of music. Now, every style of music that we're going to work in has a range of BPMs in which that style sounds appropriate and authentic. And in some cases, this range can be very wide-ranging. For example, you take a genre like rock. Well, I mean, you're going to have the slow rock songs, you're going to have the ultra fast rock songs and everything in between. And similar to country, where you're going to have the slow ballads and then the high up tempo party songs. So those are 2 genres that have an extremely wide berth when it comes to what the standard BPMs are. But conversely, we can look to genres like, for example, EDM music, which has an extremely narrow tempo range, which is basically anywhere between 126 and 128. Yes, that is 3 beats per minute is the range of that style of music. And you got to understand the reason for that. And that's because, EDM music, people are in the club, they're jumping up and down. If you go underneath 126, then the music starts to lose energy. You lose the crowd. And next thing you know, the DJ's getting fired and the bar is revolting. But if you go too high, then people can't jump up and down and do their drunken EDM dances. So you have to stay in this very, very narrow lane. And every genre of music has a lane, and you just need to know what it is so that you don't go too slow or too fast and risk sounding not authentic to that genre. The next thing we'll talk about is the instrumentation of the genre. Now, some of these are extremely easy. For example, hard rock music. Well, that's going to have loud ripping electric guitars, rockin' drum set, and bass guitar. And then if you got a vocal song, then it's got the vocals as well. But I mean, that's really all there is to hard rock music. But that is a subset of rock. And you could also take the subset of industrial rock, where you've got similar instruments, but now you're introducing electronics, and the distortion that you put on your guitars is different from the distortion you put on them in hard rock music. And so all the genres have subgenres, and the subgenres have certain instrumentation that is appropriate or not appropriate. And you need to understand all of those things. And the point I'm trying to make here is that no matter what genre or subgenre or sub-genre you decide to pursue, you need to understand the instrumentation that goes into making that sound of music. And the last thing we'll talk about is the production methods that go into making that genre of music. And if you haven't guessed where this is going yet, then obviously my moral to this story is every genre has its own production standards and production tricks that define the sound of the style. So the overall treatment in terms of mixing and mastering will be different for a singer-songwriter song than it will be for a heavy metal song, right? I mean, duh. Similarly, a dramedy track is going to be mixed and mastered much different than a tension track. I mean, so far this is a no-brainer, but what I want you guys to pay pay attention to is a lot of the flashy new music that you hear is very production intensive and really relies heavily on production tricks, which are not beginner's tricks at all. They are very advanced level things that are happening inside the DAW. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking immediately of the styles like future bass, EDM, and dubstep. Now, these styles of music aren't exactly new anymore. In fact, at this point, they're about 10 years old, but they had production tricks that were mastered by the early pioneers. And then those strategies were passed down to future generations and all the copycats that came behind them. So that now, if you want to make music in that style, you have to understand what the people did to make that style. This is not impossible stuff to learn. If you want to learn any of these tricks, there's got to be a YouTube tutorial for everything out there by now, but you do need to know how to do it before you just tell yourself, hey, I want to make EDM music, or I want to make future bass, or I want to make dubstep, but I have no freaking idea how to make those styles, because you're going to open up a session in your DAW and you are going to be floundering, and you'll spend hours upon hours upon hours making music that does not sound at all anywhere close to the style that you were trying to hit. Now, in my next video, we're going to have some fun, and I'm going to play you some of my earliest genre fails. So this is going to be extremely cringeworthy and embarrassing on my end, but I think it's important for me to show you guys that I was a beginner once too. And I tell you all the time, I've made all the mistakes there are to make. And I have tried genres that I didn't know the first thing about. I just thought that it would be cool to make music like Skrillex. And so I tried to do it without understanding how he did it. And the result was just one abysmal failure after another. So we'll do that in the next video. But between now and then, I'd like you to go back in time in your own memory and just think if there was ever a point where you tried to produce music because you thought it would be fun, or thought it was flashy, or thought it was lucrative, so you jumped into it without really knowing anything about it. One of my favorite examples of this is when middle-aged white guys like myself make hip-hop music, or in the early days, they try to make hip-hop music. Now, as a side note, spoiler alert, hip-hop music is one of the biggest cash cows in the sync music world. Just listen to any reality TV show, you will probably hear hip-hop at some point in every show, and sometimes hip-hop comprises the entirety of the sonic landscape. So there are just opportunities out the wazoo for hip-hop music. And when I first learned that, I was like, well, great, I'll make hip-hop music. So I sat down and I tried to make stuff that was just so god-awful and just borrowed entirely from the years 1988 to 1992. And I didn't understand that hip-hop music had progressed immeasurably since those years, and the result of my efforts was the most horrendous hip-hop that you would ever unfortunately subject yourself to. So make sure you understand genres of music before you try to compose them. Otherwise, you're just subjecting yourself to hours worth of work with no possible payout in the future. So let's end this video with a little joke here, again from my trusty button, the Dad Joke 3000. Come on, baby, focus for me. Come on. Here we go.
What is the most groundbreaking invention? A shovel.
The shovel. Ooh, boy, the old button here is really reaching the bottom of the barrel. All right, rock stars, I'll talk to you later. Toodles.